You listen to me. You listen to me.
Listen to me.
You listen to me closer than you've ever listened.
What's up, everybody? This is Friday Night Lights Rewind. I'm Brandon Collins.
I'm Chris Allen.
And we are talking about episode 14 of season 1, Upping the Ante, which a lot goes on in this episode, especially a lot of young abductions.
Yeah.
With Matt getting Well, he was thrown into the truck by Riggins.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, like Matt's starting to blow up as the QB. Everyone's feeling Matt. He's no longer the awkward kid that people are just like, yeah, I guess that's our QB. Now people are celebrating him. He gets at Applebee's. There's a live radio show about football, and for some reason Searson thought that'd be a good spot to take Julie on a date, and of course they're gonna be like, Matt Searson's in the house, and it's like, well, what?
Yeah, and how did he not know? You know what I'm saying? But again, it also shows you that's how small of a town it is, where people are showing up to a high school football radio show.
And these are grown men hosted this.
These are grown men.
These should be teenagers, right? That should be a teenager's first foray into journalism, doing almost a podcast for the school at the local restaurant. It shouldn't be grown ass men interrupting teenage dinner. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're interrupting my date with the Julie Taylor. Don't do this to me.
Yeah. I don't know the level of cock blocking, all because you're obsessed with high school boys. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's when you break it down, it's very weird. When you think of, because I like sports, but I'm like, man, it is kind of weird how obsessed other men can be with athletes. You know what I mean? It really is so strange. I was hanging out with some comics, and there was I hate saying female comic, but that's what people say, female comic. And there was a professional athlete there, and she was like, it's just so funny watching guys how they just fawn over.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, it's so funny. And she said, you know what it is? Women are low-key jealous. We'll put on for our women, but they were like, y'all are so much different when there's an athlete around that y'all like. And she was like, we want that attention.
Mm-hmm.
That y'all yeah, it's so weird. But yeah, dude, it's very odd that these grown men, I mean, please tell me they have other jobs. Because if this is his job, this is weird, man.
It's possible it's his job. No, it can't be the full-time job. I'm sure he has a full-time radio gig and stuff and he was just doing some additional coverage and everything like that. That'd be insane. But I'm sure his salary is maybe $30K. You know what I mean? Because we talked about that, right? We talked about salaries and how, I think that's one of the reasons why the town probably Dillon, Texas probably feels like they can put the pressure on Coach Taylor the way that they do. Because they're oh, you're getting paid. You know what I mean?
It feels
almost warranted to be that shitty to someone who they think is doing well financially, even if that's not exactly the case.
Yeah, it's always okay. I mean, and I'm not trying to show any empathy or sympathy towards the dude, but look how people are with Elon Musk. He's rich. You know what I'm saying? Again, he's doing stuff to make people upset, but even if he wasn't, it's always okay to hate on rich people.
It is. I mean, I think for Elon, he's become like Lex Luthor, so it's kind of, you know what I mean? But it's just if you're rich and people don't feel like you. Well, that's the thing is biographies now are so fucking skewed and full of revisionist history that sometimes when people are like, I built myself up on my own bootstraps and stuff like that, that story is very often not the case.
Right. When you really look into it, a lot of it's not.
Although there are a lot of not self-made millionaires, but there are a lot of millionaires that just get that way through various luck and other things. I just read an article today about 1 in 24 people who live in New York is quietly a millionaire.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's
right.
So crazy. Yeah, but that's so crazy.
You realize how wealth works. When I lived in LA, I remember I used to work at this Universal building, and I was on the 28th floor. That's where our offices were, right? And I could go into a boardroom and see all the Valley and Studio City, Universal City. And I think about all the houses. I looked at all the real estate, right? And I was just like, oh shit, like you need to be a millionaire to afford these houses. And there's, as far as the eye can see, nothing but houses in these hills. So I'm like, oh shit. Like, you know what I mean? When you're like siloed in your own world, you kind of think about millionaires like, oh man, like it must be a handful of people that are like control the world. And you're like, oh wait, there's way more millionaires than I thought there were.
Yeah, I had that moment too where like you come to this weird realization where you realize there's a lot of fucking money out there and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people who have it. But most of us, like the normal society, we don't operate in that space. You know what I'm saying? But
100%.
and we do to a degree, but not like you said that the millionaire shit.
Mm.
Because it's crazy being around people who actually have money.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I moved to Vegas, that's when I realized how real money was. You know what I mean? I go, oh shit, like people have a lot of money and they throw it around like it's nothing. And I go, they don't really care about your money here in Vegas. Cause like for me, I would go to a table with like $500 and I think they would treat me nice. No, it's just
Yeah.
like, bro, $500 is nothing. Like you lose it and they're like, yo, are you playing anymore? No, you got to move. And it's
Yeah.
just like I just lost. They don't care.
No,
And
they
like
don't care.
that blew my mind. And
Bro,
then you see, yeah,
yeah, they're dealing with people who don't even need to have cash with them. They just live off credit. That's how much money they got. It's
yeah.
like, hey, they can play as long as they want.
Right.
You know?
I saw a dude. It's little things that let you know people have money, other than like, okay, they got a big ass house and all that type of shit. Like, have you ever played craps?
Mm-hmm.
You can't sit down at a craps table.
Mm-mm.
I saw a guy sitting down at the craps table. They brought this nigga a chair.
Oh,
And
okay.
I looked,
Yeah.
you know how they got the little hollowed out part for your chips?
Mm-hmm.
Bro, it was filled with black chips. I go, oh, this dude has like $80,000 up on the
Oh
table.
shit. Yeah.
And of course, guess what? They're gonna let that man sit
Oh
down.
yeah.
But me with my little 500, you need to stand up. They brought this man a chair.
Be like, you think that Friday Night Lights podcast impresses us? Get the fuck
Yeah.
out of here, Chris Allen.
So
Uh,
yeah, it's just crazy how money this gives you so much influence. Like to bring it to comedy real quick, like Dave Chappelle, like the way they let that man smoke inside.
oh
Have
yeah.
you ever been? I'm like it's low key. I can't even say low key. It's mad disrespectful
Mm-hmm.
to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and he does it like it's
Does
nothing,
not
man.
give a fuck. Yeah, he
He
knew
does
that SNL
not
was gonna get
care.
fined if he smoked a cigarette. He does not care.
He does not care. Like in Dayton, I used to see him. He would sit on the bar after the show. He's sitting on the bar where people are trying to get drinks. What they like, one of them long candle lighters, just chain smoking, and it's like 200 people in this room just standing around, like taking pictures of him,
Yeah.
and he just smoking. I'm like, yo, this is it's so rude,
Yeah,
but
this is
he,
so out of pocket. You're
it's
like,
so out of pocket, man. That he does that, but he's got money and influence, man, and it just shows you what you can get away with when
well,
you got money.
and also to bring it back to the episode, money can make people very comfortable, or at least be like, this is the bare minimum of expectations I have for myself in regards to lifestyle and life
Great
choices,
point.
and for my children, because Buddy is immediately
Boom.
like, Buddy's a dick to Jason Street. And this is before he even knows that Street and Lila are low key engaged, because he's given, they're having like a barbecue, and, then Street and Buddy are kind of going at it, and then Buddy just lets off. He's like, your fucking family's suing our team and my coach, and you're a fucking loser teenager. You ain't gonna do shit. And then Street's like, well, you're gonna have to get used to it because we're engaged. And then Lila's like, oh Lord. And then
Yeah.
the Garrity's or the parents, the reactions were great. Like, we're getting deep into, actors are getting comfortable with these characters, and so their reactions are legit. Like the Garrity's, their reactions in this episode were like authentic. I thought, Coach Taylor, like Kyle Chandler, man, he's continuing to like remind me, like, oh, this is why he's the greatest TV coach of all time. Like his
Yeah,
reactions, he says so much without saying anything.
he does. He's in the pocket right now.
Oh
He
yeah,
really is. He's
and
in
it
the
gets
pocket.
better, and that's
And
what's
it
wild about
right.
it. It's the first season, so we're like,
It's the
oh,
first season. He's still finding it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
He's still finding it, but like he's in the pocket. Things are really starting to ratchet up now. I mean, because we're getting towards like the lower. I mean, yeah, the latter quarter of this, well, not
yeah.
quarter, like the last quarter of the season. I'm sorry.
We are.
Uh,
We're more than halfway done.
yeah, so things are really starting to ratchet up. And did you notice how like in that the barbecue scene, how like Mrs. Garrity is kind of like not really paying attention to what Jason is saying
Mhm.
as he's talking about the quad rugby. And like you said, like him and Buddy end up getting into it. Like Buddy's brushing it off. He calls it a hobby that he can't make any money with it. And like you can just tell Jason just couldn't wait to just pull that ace out of his back pocket about getting married.
Yeah, they're the Buddy and Street is just like a kind of like a big dick swinging competition right now about like who's going to control Lila's destiny, and no one's actually asking Lila kind of what she wants, because I think Street is kind of taking advantage of Lila's guilt still, and like putting that pressure on her about like I want you to stay with me, like you kind of owe it to me, and like oh you still want to go to college, like okay, like maybe we'll talk about that, like I guess I'll go to college too, I'm smart, and then Buddy's like I don't want my daughter to just take care of you the rest of her life. She's Mika Kelly. She's got a promising future, bro. Like,
Yeah.
and I get that too. Because at first I wrote down my notes. I was like, yo, buddy, you get into an argument with a teenager. But then I remember, no, to be fair, a few episodes ago, Street rolled up on you and literally he rolled up on you. It was like, hey, man to man, you don't fucking like me. You don't want me for your daughter. He's like, man to man, no, I don't. And so I'm like, oh, they already opened up Pandora's box now. Like they're going at it. So
yeah, they in it, man. And it has to be even more of a like a mind fuck for Jason because think about before this happened. I mean, I can't even imagine. Can you imagine the level of weird Buddy had to be with Street? Because look how much he loves the team. Look how much he loves this team. His daughter is dating the quarterback of the team that he loves more than his family. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
And let's keep it a buck. I'm pretty sure if Buddy Garrity could suck Street off, he would have. You know what I'm saying? I'm being funny. I don't think he really would, but you know what I'm saying. He's obsessed.
He's
it's
obsessed
unhealthy.
with football. Yes.
It's unhealthy. So I can't imagine how he was when Jason was able-bodied. He's about to go to Notre Dame, and then to like completely just turn his back. Because let's not forget the line that Jason had. He goes, "Yo, what about some empathy for me? I'm the cute. I lost my legs, and you're worried about the team."
Yeah,
it's crazy. That was a crazy, and that's a wild way to open the episode. They came out hot.
Yeah, for sure. And Buddy Garrity, he has a lot of growth ahead of him and stuff. And that's one of the things I appreciate about this show is like, for the most part, I would say everybody grows at some point. They grow stubbornly. Like, sometimes it takes folks a few seasons to finally get it right and for things to click. And that's why I appreciate about the show, because I feel like I'm meeting more people later in life who are just like refusing to grow in any way, who are like, I am what I am. I'm like, this isn't a fucking Dr. Seuss book. Like you gotta pivot. If things aren't working and you're upset at the world about it, like you gotta figure something out. You gotta adjust, right?
That's so funny that you use that. I am what I am, because I'm a big Sopranos fan, and like there's a scene where Carmela's like, you gotta grow up, Tony. And he was like, I am what I am. She was like, I didn't marry a fucking cartoon character. What are you, Popeye? Like this is real life. Like you can't keep doing this shit, and it's so true.
Yeah, but I mean, what's weird about The Sopranos? Did you ever see the prequel, the Saints?
Yeah.
Movie? So yeah, I mean, Tony kind of has been him like who he is since he was a teenager.
Yeah, this is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah,
but
maybe we'll do a Sopranos recap show.
Dude, don't get me started on that shit. But I will say real quick, I low key kind of feel bad for Tony after seeing the prequel, because growing up in an environment that I grew up in, I knew a lot of kids who had it in them, you know what I mean, to be a good person. They just didn't have the right people. They didn't have the right influences, and I felt like that was Tony. Like he had, because Carmelo was like, you were funny, you were this and that. His football coach told him he could have been a coach and he could lead men, but he just had bad influence in his life, and it just led him to doing the shit that his dad was into. And I knew a lot of people like that growing up. A lot of dudes who were good dudes, they just didn't have the right influences, and a lot of times the wrong thing is usually the easiest thing to do, and a lot of people fall into that,
I mean, we'll talk about that with Riggins, with him having to connect with his dad and stuff. But I do want to talk real quick. I do want to shout out Aimee Teegarden, who plays Julie Taylor, who I looked her up because she hasn't really done much in a while. Like she does like Hallmark movies apparently, but I looked her up on Instagram. she's a good looking woman. Like she looks different than she did as a teenager, obviously.
Oh,
But she
really?
yeah, but she looks like she's a pretty young woman. But in this episode, dude, she did some mannerisms where I'm like, I don't know if she just spent a lot of time with Connie Britton or if it's just natural. She made a face when she gets left at Applebee's by Searson when he gets abducted, where I was like, yo, Connie Britton's made that face a few episodes.
Yeah, that's
You know what I
dope.
mean? Like I was like, this is such perfect casting.
Hmm. Yeah,
And I
she's
say it all the time.
yes, this yeah, it's casted so well. So it's everything is so believable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They casted it so well. And yeah,
And,
Aimee Teegarden was always like a little cutie pie because she was just she looked like the cute chick from high school. You know what I
mm,
mean?
yeah.
Just kind of sweet. Yeah, the coach's daughter. No, people kind of afraid of her.
Yes. Yeah.
But she wants to be normal. But it's just like you're the coach's daughter. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in this episode, because she gets abandoned at the Applebee's by Searson and the other football players, she starts bonding with Tyra, who happens to be at
Yes.
Applebee's. Tyra always happens to be where the football players are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she gets a ride with Julie, and then she starts hanging out with Julie, shows Julie how to steal and shit like that.
Right. I put that in
Julie,
my notes, and
yeah,
I just wrote could not be good. Just the way
yeah.
it was kind of set up. It's just like, hey, this is not good. But it's such a natural like I felt like this is true to life where like you got the kind of young innocent girl stuck out there and then they meet the a little bit a little long, the teen that's a little long in the tooth, a little bit more mature,
Mm-hmm.
and they start exposing them to kind of like the real world. And I've seen people just take that turn into like being an innocent teen to like smoking the cigarettes and skipping class and all that
Yep.
type of shit, stealing and stuff like that. So yeah, this is I thought that was great. That was just one of those moments in high school where like some people's life changes when they meet people like Tyra. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I dabble with like hanging out with like some of the quote unquote bad kids and stuff
Oh,
like
did
that in
you?
middle school and high school. Yeah, like, but like, it was eventually where I was put in a situation where I was like, this ain't good. Like, this ain't, I'm not being set up for success here. You know what I mean? Or,
Right.
like you see people's true colors and like who would stay for the fallout of something. And you're like, oh no, I can't fuck with this person long term
Right.
because they're going to get me caught up in some stuff.
Hmm.
Fortunately, those kids ended up kind of, for the most part, straightening themselves out. But there was moments where I was definitely like, this could go the wrong way. I've seen enough movies and TV shows where, I'm
Right.
not to the Sopranos point. I'm not trying to end up like Jackie Jr. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be the dude that robbed with Jackie Jr. and get
Right.
blown. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Um, but
Yeah, man.
yeah, Tyra and Julie just like but there are moments where like I think Tyra is looking for friendship, especially from women. I think because of the whole fallout with like Lila and Tim and stuff like that, she's feeling in a probably an outsider, like even more so than she usually does. So
Hmm.
her like going over to Saracen's grandma's house, right, and hanging out with
Right.
Julie while they're babysitting because Matt's got to do some stuff. You know,
Yeah.
I thought that was actually like a nice softer moment
It
where
was.
yeah.
Yeah. You know what I felt like it, now that I think about it, because I in my notes when we start talking about when we talk Tim, I'll say this again, but I felt like we kind of got to see we got to see the kids who are kind of like on the fringe who live their harder lives.
Mm,
You got to see moments of them being kids
yes.
a little bit. Like Tyra, like hanging out at grandma's. They just kind of dishing with the girl. Did you notice all the wine they were pouring grandma?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Hell, I thought that was hilarious. But they just got to have a little girl talk, and like, you know what? They actually have an appropriate relationship with grandma. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Just talking girl stuff, their problems and stuff like that. And I think grandma enjoyed that as well.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
and to kind of like give you another example, like with Tim hanging out with his dad and like, hey, I do want to go grab a burger. And like you kind of saw Tim like a kid because
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
you know
even
what I mean?
Billy tells him he's like, because the whole Tim going looking for his dad storyline is like he is potentially going to get his license suspended, and he
Mm,
needs a parent or a guardian to sign this paper saying like, hey, like
right.
I'll watch over and make sure he doesn't get into some shit. And even I didn't realize like, and I think they talked about this a few episodes ago that Billy isn't Tim's legal guardian, which for me, I'm like, how the fuck is Tim able to do so many things for school? Because you usually need a parent or a guardian to sign up on a lot of stuff, right? Like even going to a doctor's appointment and shit. You know what I mean? But I was like, I don't want to get too deep into weeds with that, but Tim immediately is eager to go find his dad. And like Billy's like, I could just sign it for you. Like, what are you doing? Like he's like, you
Oh,
don't
I
need
know,
to.
right? Yeah. So I'm assuming that's probably what they've been doing. And again, it's a small town,
Yeah,
and everybody can go, oh, we know Billy's in charge and his dad's a piece of shit. So so they kind of let things
true.
slide. Because you're right. How was he doing all this shit? Field trips, doctor's appointments, all that kind of shit. And it's just like, think about this. It's just like Tim is a teenager.
Mhm.
His parents are nowhere to be seen. They're in court. A judge will be like, "Yo, where the fuck are your parents?"
Yes, yes.
And you're just living
Where
with
the
your brother.
fuck are your parents?
It would be a whole it would be a whole thing. The judge would be like, "I need your mother and father." Like, what the fuck are y'all doing?
Mhm.
Like, why aren't you guys with your kid?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
It's
that's technically he's like an abandoned child, just
kind of
living
yeah.
with his brother. Because now if his brother was his legal guardian, it would be a different. He's not. You're right. He's not. He's a kid living with his brother, and his
Hmm.
parents are nowhere to be found.
Well, we know where dad is because dad is a caddy slash golfer, like in
Golf,
a
yeah, the golf
town.
hustler. Yeah,
Yeah, we don't know how far away this town is, but it doesn't seem like it's too far. Like
it doesn't.
and
It,
that's shit that rattles you. That's shit that fucks with you. Like I found out, when
oh
I
shit.
about my father and stuff like that, and I learned that my father never left Ann Arbor. Like my father was always around. Like even like going to local markets and shit that I would go like, and that kind of fucked with me a little bit. Like I've gone all my life without him and stuff like that, but just knowing he was in such close proximity to me, it's one thing if your dad is just like MIA, right? Like maybe in
Right.
another country or a grifter or some shit. But to know that he was like there, I'm like, oh, that kind of
Yeah.
fucking sucks.
So did you ever see any guy where you're like, huh? Was that never?
No, I
There was
met
never.
him. I ran into him randomly when I was like a junior in high school. I was with my mom at a grocery store, and like mind you, this is at a point where like my mom and I's relationship was getting pretty rough. She needed me to like take her to the grocery store because like things that happened with her car got repoed and all this thing, right? And we ran into this guy and like his young daughter, and I'm kind of like passive about him, like who the fuck is this guy? I just want to get out of here, right? And then we exchange pleasantries, we leave, and then in the car, I'm like, hey mom, who was that guy? And she's like, that was your father,
Wow.
and so yeah,
So there
it's
was nothing. There was no like. He looks familiar, or like the
that
his voice kind of sounds like mine, or nothing like that.
I wouldn't say I didn't pay attention, man. I wouldn't say I regret not paying attention more because I think it just would have maybe fucked with me more at that time.
Right.
Um, but like I've seen photos of him later. Like when I first learned about him, like the week that we were getting married, and I learned my father's full name and like found out he passed away and all this stuff. The immediate picture that pops up of my father, I sent it to like I remember I sent like my wife was immediately like, that's your father. I sent it to my best friend, my best man, who was about to fly in like the next day for my wedding. And he
Mhm.
was like, yo, that's your dad. Like without even knowing anything about this man, just saw his smile. He was like, that's your dad.
Damn.
Yeah. It's so weird for me because like I always wonder like what does my dad look like? Will people think that I'm like, his son? Because, I just always was in my head, like, would my dad even like would I even be able to claim him as my father? Because maybe we don't look alike at all. And then sending that photo to everybody, like all my close friends, they're like, dude, that's your dad.
Man, that's crazy, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I remember I texted my friend Ross and I was just like, I don't even think I said this is my father. I was just like, I sent him and he was just like, that's your dad, right? And I was like, yo, like it was wild, man.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least Riggins got to see his dad, even though his
Yeah.
dad was fucking crazy and kind of a womanizer like he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's
Yeah.
got all these angry women. The one woman said, tell him I want my Conway
Twitty.
titty
Yeah. Conway
twitty
Twitty. Yeah.
or something like that. Cause like they closed the targets down here. I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Conway Twitty. Yeah. Country singer.
Which that like not to get like into the political world and stuff like that, but folks, your resources are about to get real fucking crazy,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you live in a small town where maybe you just got internet. Shit's about to get real crazy. But I don't want to digress on that. But yeah, Tim. I was surprised that Tim was able to miss two practices hanging out with his dad. But I guess in talking to Coach Taylor, he's probably like, I'm with my dad. Like, and you know how much that means to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I guess he can also say it's some court stuff because it was some court stuff that he had to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it is funny seeing him with his dad because he's like a handsome guy, a charmer, and Tim gets charmed by his own dad. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Let me ask you this. So, you know, the lady at the bowling alley,
Yes.
remember he was like, "This is my son," and she was like, "Oh, he talks about you." Do you think that was a setup or was that real?
No, I
Is
think
this
that's real. I
You
think
think
that's
that was
real.
real?
Like, yeah, going back to my father and stuff like that, I would be very surprised if I felt like if he didn't keep tabs on me. Like, I'm not saying like that to be like to make myself feel better, but
No,
I'm just
no,
like,
no, no.
I just like legit don't think like if he was still like if he stayed in Ann Arbor that he wasn't checking in on me occasionally. And I think for me, based on like stories my mom has told me that I've been very consistent all my life. Like she lies, but like this has been very consistent. I'm like, he knew about me. So it's not like, yeah, I think dads
Mhm.
do that. Like even did you watch the new Bel Air series on Peacock?
No, not yet.
Okay, but like yeah, like Will's dad keeps tabs on him, even though they're
Mhm.
like estranged and stuff like that. So I definitely see that. I think it's just innate, right? Like you just even if you're like an absentee father and stuff, you still want to check in, make sure your kids are okay, like occasionally, you
Yeah, I
know.
mean, yeah, it would be weird to have somebody that you know kind of look like you. Like, what the
Mm,
fuck are they up to? Like, you know what
yeah,
I'm saying? I think like let me just see what they, you know what I mean?
yeah. Also,
Because
I'm pretty sure his dad probably was betting on his teams if he had the opportunity. You know what I mean?
oh, you ain't lying
you
about
know,
that
what I
shit.
mean?
Yeah,
He probably bet on that game that he attended at the end. The
yeah,
playoff game. He's probably like, yeah, I'm here to make sure everything goes according to plan.
yeah,
Even though the
yeah.
way he
That's
taught, the dad taught, it was like, yo, did you get run out of Dillon, Texas? Like, you talking like you can't go back?
yeah. I mean, he's a golf hustler. He might owe somebody some money, so you know he could have a debt. Yeah. You know what I noticed too? How he was like, I've been sober for 6 weeks, you know, coming on whatever day. And then like later the episode, they're drinking. So it's like, was he even sober?
Yeah, I mean,
You
it
know
was
what I'm
definitely
saying?
like how much of what he says is true and everything like
Right.
that. I mean, dads are just, this guy, the dad is just a piece of shit, but at least he does redeem himself somewhat by showing up to the game because, he purposely goes on and whooping Tim's ass in that golf game. So he doesn't have to go. Like he relishes winning. So he
Oh
doesn't have to go to
man.
the football game. And
He's
Tim is
like,
just
yes.
destroyed. Tim's just destroyed,
Yeah,
man.
he was hurt, man.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the celebration after hitting the putt was crazy. Because I think he just assumed like, oh, it's my dad. He'll just come, and he was just like, yeah. The way he celebrated, he was like, "Thank God I don't have to go."
Yeah. I feel like one of the themes of this episode was like, how do adults handle the young people who rely on them to be good role models? You know what I mean? How do they navigate life outside of their families and stuff, right? Like, because like for instance, we learned Buddy. I like little things about Buddy. Like Buddy frequents the strip club and often goes to Tyra's sister, for dances and stuff like that. We learn, obviously about Tim Riggins' dad. We learn about how um, we learn a bunch of stuff about how these men, especially, are navigating things. On top of Smash's mom, seeing her son spiraling and feeling helpless about it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yep.
um, also real quick about the Tim thing and the older woman that he was encountering that had dalliances with his dad. They all wanted to fuck Tim, right?
Oh,
They're all looking at
100%.
Tim like, "Oh, you a younger version of your daddy." Like
Oh
it was
yeah.
like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like
Yeah.
it at all.
It just, you know, I think that was really just this to hit home the emphasis, the level, you know, where he is, like the
Mm,
level of people that they're dealing with.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's the level of, and I gotta say, the women he was talking to, they were weathered, but they weren't bad looking. You know what I mean? Just that Texas weathered
They were all
kind of
variations of
women.
Tyra. That they were just older variations of Tyra,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, you're right. Yep. Exactly.
Which
Exactly.
probably turned Tim off even more from Tyra. But we'll talk about that in a future episode. Um,
Yeah.
I did I did want to like shout out Taylor Kitsch though. I kind of going back to what you were saying, like this is the first time we kind of see Tim as a kid because he had this very doe-eyed look about him whenever he was around his dad. Like
Yeah.
he changed his whole body language around his dad.
Yeah.
Like
He
like
yes. Yep. He regressed.
mm-hmm,
He kind of regressed. Because like when the woman was like, he talks about you all the time. Like there were a lot of like beats where it was the look on his face was like, really, Daddy's talking about me, really. It just made him happy and proud. You know, he felt you could tell like there was something being fulfilled. You know what I mean? It was something that Tim was missing and he needed to hear. Because Tim doesn't really smile a whole lot in Dylan unless he's trying to get some shit out of somebody. You know what I mean?
100%.
That's just an act. But there he kind of opened up, and it was just funny how Billy like warned him of that shit. Like, yo, don't fucking think he's cool because he's not. He's not fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
he was
also
a woman beater. I think he might have been a woman beater, man.
maybe. I mean, I think the juxtaposition between the actual fathers of some of these players and how, and like, you know, Lila, how they actually navigate their relationships and actually behave and come through for their kids. And then you see Coach Taylor being hard on Smash, and then at the end, after his call, like, you know, he has a talk with Tammy, who's always like a good voice of reason. He goes to visit Smash at his home, and basically it's like, I feel like I'm hard on you, and like you disappointed me, but I feel like I'm taking away your joy of the game. You know, because Tammy is basically like, you know, you put so much pressure on him and things, he's going to burn out. He's going to lose his passion for what he's so great at.
Yeah, lose his confidence because
he's
was
losing his confidence too. Yeah, and I know exactly what that's like. I mean, I remember like having experience, really intense work experience not too long ago, about like less than 2 years ago, where I felt like it was so intense and sometimes toxic, where I lost my confidence, like as a creative. I was like, man, do I have like just terrible ideas? All this time I thought I was a great idea machine and like a good writer, and now I'm just like, oh, I suck at everything. You know what I mean? That can't happen. And so I really appreciate Tammy having that talk with Coach, and then Coach going and seeing like, you know, you just smashed Junior. I'm not just saying that because he was a little black kid, but the kid stepped up to Coach Taylor, was like, hey, you know, remember me? I'm gonna be
Miles Shepard.
Yep. He's like, I'm gonna reach out to you when it's time for me to start doing JV and shit like that. Like, I love that scene because I think Julius, who plays Smash, I think he played it very well. He like the look what he make, like he's looking at his playbook and looks up and Coach Taylor's there. He made a face like, oh no.
Oh my God. Like what he didn't know what to expect.
He's like, what now?
Yeah. What now? Like, because I mean, when him and his mom, when his mom tried to talk to him, he was just like, I can't slow down. You know, Coach is hounding me. He's got to do those drug tests. You know, he's making them show up in the morning and the weekends and wash clothes and shit. And like it's a lot going on. You know what I'm saying? It's a 100%. Lot going on. And I can understand where Coach can get lost in this, because it's like, yo, I could potentially lose everything by hiding this shit.
Yep.
He's pissed. But as always, Connie Britton just comes through and says exactly what he needs to hear, man. And like the way he just takes her advice, he might fight her a little bit, but for the most part, he knows that she's right. And yeah, he always takes her advice, man. And it's always a beautiful moment.
Yeah. She
and
said
they don't do it too often.
Yeah, she said style filters down.
Yeah,
which I've heard different various ways of that expression and stuff like that. But yeah, it made a lot of sense, you know. And also, I'm sure like if it's leading to confusion on the team, or like people are like, "Yo, Smash ain't starting," and like Coach is going so hard at him, like what the fuck happened between the two of them? And even Smash at one point, doesn't he say to Coach, he's like, "I know you're never going to like me, and I made peace with that, but like, you know, I just want to like do good for the team and like, you know, not let you down." And I was like, damn, man.
Yeah, he was being hard.
Because sometimes that's a situation, right? I feel like that's Tom Brady and what's his name?
Belichick.
The Patriots. Yeah, I feel like it was at a point where it's like, I know you don't like me, and I don't like you, but we somehow work together professionally, and it clicks. So whatever.
Yeah, yeah, that could work because now you don't have a friendship in the middle. It's just like, yo, we both know we're here to do a job.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. When you like once you can figure out what the relationship is and stay within those bounds, hey. Boom, good to go.
I think this episode also did a good job of showing that adults don't always give young people enough credit of what they see and the truth in what they see. You know what I mean? Like, and the reason why I bring that up is because Tim, when he's with his dad, he's like, Dad, I was 10, I wasn't blind, about like, you know, like the things that his dad was doing and shit like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, like Buddy's in a similar boat. Like it hasn't blown up in his face yet. But remember, like the fact that Tyra knows about Buddy frequenting that strip club, which is mad bold to do in a small town like this. It's like, Tyra has that in her back pocket that your dad's a sleazeball to Lila. You know what I mean? So Buddy is over here thinking he's being discreet and shit. It's like, nigga, you Buddy Garrity. People know who you are.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's like those kind of things are really interesting.
It is. I think it also shows Tyra's maturity, and it just shows you like the world that she operates in, where she knows like, oh, okay, like she sees the world for what it really is,
Yeah.
and she sees like most people have like this shined view of their parents. Like I've never seen my dad really drink a beer. I wouldn't. I don't think my dad would ever go to a strip club. You know, if he did, I would never know. But she sees the other side of people, and for her to be like, you know what, I'm not even gonna say shit because she just so used to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But she also knows she has that in her back pocket. And then to see the other shit that's going on, which we're gonna get to later, is but we'll talk about it on the next one. But I just feel like, so you remember when Tyra's mom got the job, right?
Yeah.
Or the interview, like when her mother saw Buddy and how she was acting with Buddy, they kind of pan back to her, and they showed Tyra make this face like, oh, my mom will take the care of the rest. She will take the care of the rest of this with her charm and her feminine wiles and shit. I think she had to know, if she sees him at the strip club, she knows what kind of guy he is. She knows what her mom is capable of. Do you think she kind of knew that this would happen?
I think she, you know what's interesting about that? That's I don't think she's put the thread together yet. And I think it's easy for us as viewers, like especially the first time watching the series, to not put two and two together, that Garrity clearly has a thing for the women in this family. You know what I mean? And so I think that's going to come into play once we reveal, you know, Buddy's affairs revealed. Because that's interesting that you pointed that out, because I'm like, oh yeah, he does. Like if he has a thing for the daughter, getting lap dances from her, he's got a thing with the mom now because she's working for him. It's like it's kind of creepy because you're like, oh, that means he's probably definitely low key checking out Tyra.
Oh,
they're like a sleaze
when she turned 23, she definitely next.
23.
You know what I'm saying?
You know,
I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah,
18, 19.
That's what's so unsettling sometimes about some of them, like, you know, the men in this environment, and even some of the women, because some of the women that are looking at Riggins, I'm like, yo, this is
bro, so inappropriate.
Yeah.
So inappropriate. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
But so what we were talking about, the Tyra.
I wanted to point out one thing real quick, because you know a lot of people are always like, oh, the black community, like the family's broken, and like, you know, dads ain't, you know, absentee dads and stuff like that. I'm like, what I love about this show is they show that white people are even messier. Like, you know, white people messy as hell. And I think what gets lost is like demographic sizes. Like black people are such a small, like, part of the overall population of the United States. You know what I mean? But we just get a lot of media attention for, you know, for obvious reasons and shit like that. And I'm like, yo, because these white kids in Dillon, Texas, they can deal with all kinds of fucking fracture families and bullshit. Saracen's being watched over by a woman who barely knows which way is up. You know what I mean? She's just got people coming into her house giving her makeovers. She don't know who the fuck Tyra is.
Right, yeah. Tyra lives in a trailer. Her mom, you know, she's basically the adult in the room, in the house. Her sister's a stripper. You know, Tim is raised by his brother. His dad's a golf lesser. Mom nowhere to be seen. Yeah.
It's wild.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I will say, there's a few moments I want to shout out in this episode. One is the Eric Taylor show, which goes disaster. Like, is a disaster. That shit, bro. There's sometimes I forget how funny this show is. Sometimes, like, when, you know, Coach Taylor's messing with the remote, he's like, "There's something wrong with the clicker," and then they're like, "Hey, just talk to Saracen about football." He's like, why would I do that? Like, we already, like, what? And then he's like, it's clear that Coach Taylor doesn't want to do it in his face. Not. And my wife says that. My wife is like, you're like that. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you know, there's certain things that you have to do or I ask you to do where, like, you clearly don't want to do it. Like, it's just all over your face. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, at least I'm being transparent. Yeah. You know, but I love when Coach Taylor was like this. Like, what did Matt ask him? He was like, "Oh yeah, everyone wants to know, is Smash starting this weekend?" And then Coach Taylor's like, "You're supposed to be helping me out here." Buddy's laughing behind the camera. I was like, "Yo, I love this show."
Yeah, that's so funny because, you know, Buddy and them, they wanted to know. You know, they probably talked him into asking. You know what I mean?
I think
It
people
took
just
me.
like seeing the Coach Taylor squirm though. Like
Oh yeah, 100%,
I've noticed that
100%.
because it's all in good jest. Like I've noticed that like when I used to manage a large team, I was very serious. I was told I was like very intense, like and serious and stuff, but like people could tell I cared. And then sometimes when they would see me like in uncomfortable situations or having like, just a rough day, like sometimes they couldn't help but laugh a little bit because they're like, he's always so controlled and composed. And then sometimes I just lose my shit
Yeah, that's so
or just my
funny.
face. I'm like,
I work with people like that. It's like, bro, just chill out just a little bit. Just let
yeah.
it go. Just a little bit.
During staff
Yeah.
meetings, sometimes teachers would say crazy stuff. And I'm like, I got staff of like 40 plus people. And I just make the faces like, we're moving on from that. Like, we're not
Yeah.
going to entertain whatever this madness is.
What would you tell yourself if you could go back? How would you change your style of management from what based on what you know now? Or was that the
I
right
think
or was that the right way?
I think I think I probably would have given some people fewer chances. I think
Oh
I'm
wow.
a very nice guy. Like I think, I gave a few folks some additional chances that they didn't deserve.
What was this your first time managing?
No, no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
At this point, like, no, I've been managing people since I was like 17, bro.
No, okay, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. So was this at the time your biggest team?
No, ironically, my biggest team was the first team I ever like
Wow.
really managed, which was like 100 plus part-time instructors. Yeah, that was
Damn.
fucking nuts.
So what made this one different though?
Just because it was all in person. It was all in person. All direct reports actually like were in person. So I had to manage different programs. I had to manage different people all on site. On top of like the students, we had hundreds of students, like at least 150 plus students at this point on campus. So it was like really intense, but I loved it. I love having a big team like that because you get to work with so many different people and you get to like figure out how you can like put them together to like create something really cool and like
Mhm.
a dope work experience. But there was just a few people that either um didn't attribute like add to a positive working environment at times, or
Right.
who just like were dealing with so much other things and they weren't transparent about it, so it would impact their job performance. And so like I would give occasionally, like I would try to be understanding about that, but then there was points where I was like, bro, you should just rip this band-aid off. Like I remember one dude, I basically was like, yeah, like, so we're not gonna renew your contract. Like it just, and I didn't quite have the authority to do that, but I was just like, just for the good or for the good of the company and us, just like
Mhm.
just
Just
plan
got to part
accordingly. And I
ways.
gave him several months ahead, heads up, like at least 3 months heads up. But I was just like, we're not renewing your contract, bro.
Damn.
Not gonna happen. But
Oof, that's rough. All right.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but that's that's leadership decisions and stuff like that. Um,
Mhm.
but going back to this, I did write down also with the Smash scene, with the Coach Taylor and Smash playing football with the neighborhood kids and stuff like that.
Right.
I wrote down, I think it was this scene that made me kind of like, I've never been a big sports guy
Mhm.
growing up, but that scene made me realize like this is about community. Like if a sport like football can bring people together and like build a sense of community and like excitement and passion, like I'm not gonna yuck anybody's yum on that. You know what I mean? Like there's some people that like are so dismissive of sports and like, oh, it's barbaric, blah 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 blah. I'm like, to each its own. If it's
Right.
not negatively impacting me, like who gives a fuck? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But
right.
seeing stuff like that where I'm like, it's one, it gets kids out of the house. Two,
Yeah.
it gets kids to play with each other and get to know how to like, problem solve and collaborate, all the things.
Yeah. He's
And then
got a
you have
goal.
two positive male role models, at least to
Right.
the kids' eyes, who are like
Exactly.
playing with them. I mean, Coach Taylor could be doing a lot of stuff. And I'm like, that's how Coach Taylor gets goodwill from the community, though. When he
Mhm.
does little things like this and genuinely cares and it's not performative, that's why people fuck with Coach Taylor.
Yeah. Yep. It is because if in like we know how things, but say coach does stay there in 2014 when Miles Shepard shows up.
Mhm.
Hey, I remember this kid when he was 8 years old. He always told me, and now that kid will be able to go to this guy's like, yo, I used to see him in the hood in the projects with Smash Williams. You know what I'm saying? That would build so much, like you said, just camaraderie within the community. Because like, yo, this white guy has been coming to the projects to help guys out ever since I was a little kid. So I'm gonna give him all I got on the field. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're right, it's not performative. And you do see that cycle continue because even Smash was like, yo, that was me. That was me.
Yeah.
And it shows you like, even though like it's high school is supposed to be innocent, look at the adult situation that Smash put himself in. And I think him seeing that reminded him of like how innocent and fun the game used to be. And I think that worked for Coach as well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Because I think coaches and players, especially at a pro level, you have to still find your passion for the game because at some point it does become a job and about money and all. It's super serious and it cannot be fun. That's why you got dudes like Ricky Williams quitting in their like in the prime of their career and going off and smoking weed. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but like, yo, he never liked that shit, according to him. Maybe if they allow him to do other shit, he could have found, oh, you know what? I do enjoy this part of football. But you know,
100%.
he didn't, you know what I'm saying? It's just so I did a little bit of the math because so the kid said he would show up in 2014 for practice, right? He would have graded out in 2018. Right now he will be 6 years out of college. So he would, I mean 6 years out of college. He will be 25-ish.
You should be a pro.
Yeah, so either he's there flipping burgers in Dillon, or you know he went to college, got married. So it just, even with that, from like watching the show so far in the future, it's just interesting, like to think about the world continuing, like whatever happened to Miles Shepard. You know what I'm saying? If it was real.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. By the way, I want to correct something. I called the after they play Smash Julius. It's actually Gaius Charles.
Oh, okay.
Who did a decent job this episode, even though when he kind of goes off on mom and he's like, yeah, there's blood in the water. I was kind of like, all right, we're borderline on coonish here, but you know, it's just good enough where it's not eye rolling, but it's getting there.
It's blood in the water, man.
It reminded me of this brother I met in New Orleans. Post Katrina, we were doing some community service at my college, and this dude was like, he's like, yeah, we didn't take it that seriously, Katrina, until one night I was sleeping during the storm, and then I woke up and my dick was floating in the water. I was like,
what?
Yeah, because his house is flooded. I was just like, bro, what are you doing? We're from religious school, man. Anyway,
that's wild, man.
But like to the whole coach, his relationship with Smash and the community and the positive influences he gives to these young boys, he clearly does that with a lot of people because Street and Coach have that really beautiful moment in the courthouse before he's about to go get, we're about to go in front of a judge about the lawsuit his parents filed against him, and they're laughing and reminiscing, and Coach, you can tell Coach really cares about these kids that do this work for him, right? And I think that's something that you really have to earn, and Coach clearly does the work to do that. And I think that's something that we see throughout the series that people in communities take for granted, because that's very rare. Like, I think it's like it's so hard for like coaches to get that kind of dedication and admiration from their players, and especially Street, who like comes from like his parents seem to have good heads on their shoulders. It's not like Street was yearning for another father figure. It's just that Coach is just that dude.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, Jason. Coach. You know what he's great at? Most of the times is compartmentalizing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because he has to do that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because he's dealing with Smash a certain way. He's got to deal with Street, and like you said, he's dealing with some personal shit between Jason Street, his quarterback, and like some life shit. Hey man, we're not saying don't get married, but think about this shit. While this kid is about to testify against him and sue him, but he knew he had to separate those two. Like, hey, he's a kid. He has nothing to do with this. He's doing what his parents are saying is best for their family. I get it. Do I like it? No.
100%.
But I'm also, you know what I'm saying? So it's like he gets that, but he's also like, yo, I also don't want this kid to ruin his life and this other girl's life. And I'm pretty sure he understands where Buddy is coming from, but he knows Buddy isn't conveying that shit the right way, in the most tactful, tasteful way.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he know what Jason is going through, but he's not going to let that lawsuit get in the way of him giving this kid like, yo, think about this shit. No one's saying you shouldn't get married. And then the way he's like, see y'all in there at the end. God damn. See
Mm-hmm.
y'all in there. I was like, wow.
Yep.
That was low key some guilt trip shit. Like, hey, you know what? I can still be a good man to your husband, to your son, and we can deal with this. I
Mm-hmm.
get it. I'm not gonna take that shit personally. At least not even outwardly. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
man.
saying? He's putting that face on, man. Kyle Chandler is a bad motherfucker, man.
I love
He
it. I
is.
love it, man. He's great. I think I just really like this episode. Even with the whole like Saracen constantly getting snatched up, which I was like, yo, this town just be snatching up niggas like this. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then he goes to that party for the charity pictures where all the girls clearly want to fuck Saracen now. And
Yeah.
Julie gets mad at him and stuff like that. I'm like, yo, I'm good for Matt that he has a girlfriend though, because if he was trying to fuck at that party, there's so many STDs being spread around at that party.
Right. Yeah, you're right. But
You
does he
guys
have
to
a
believe.
girlfriend? Does he now?
Uh, yeah, that's ambiguous, right? Even to the next episode, it's like I think he's in the
He
doghouse. I would
yeah,
say he's
he
in the
uses
doghouse.
he is. He definitely is. Because he lied about it.
Yeah.
Which you know what? He did, but I'm not mad at him because it's like you're a kid. This is his first, maybe girlfriend. You don't know how to handle the situation.
Yeah.
It's just like you don't want her to be mad. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And I
100%.
get that from a young guy's perspective. Hey,
Yeah.
what she doesn't know didn't hurt her
He
because
doesn't like to disappoint people, and I get that
he
wholeheartedly.
doesn't.
I was like the
And
same way. I would lie sometimes because I just didn't want to disappoint
yeah,
somebody or make someone
right.
upset at me.
And he didn't really do shit. He got snatched up. Could,
He
could he
keeps getting
could he have gotten
abducted.
could he have fought more? He could have. But at one, you know what I'm saying? He
Yeah,
could
but
have.
they're like, I mean, it's just constantly like large groups of people shoving him into a car. Like, you can only
Yeah,
fight so much before
right.
like they start beating you up like disturbing behavior. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you got you got to just
Yeah.
accept your fate at some point.
Yeah. And it sucks too because like all the anti-football shit that people have been kind of putting in Julie's head. And to be honest, it was kind of there from the get-go because she didn't want to talk to Matt. And like
Mm-hmm.
now it's slowly starting to come to pass.
Yep,
The rally girls, football is kind of becoming like in the forefront, and then she meets Tyra. You know how that's how life works. Sometimes you can meet the right person at the wrong time, and
mm,
she met the right wrong person to kind of like solidify her the starting doubts about football players because of her because of Tyra's and
that's
Tim's
true.
you know what I'm saying, and that could be a bad thing. It
It
could be
could
a
be.
really really bad thing.
It could
So
be.
the
But
way they wrote this, the way they got life and right now is great. I'm trying to think if I think there was one more thing. Oh, uh, to go back to Tim one last time, how him and his dad in the drinking and stuff, like you just seeing the cycle of like the kids who aren't doing well, they have very inappropriate relationships with their parents.
oh yeah, it's very adult. Like
Yes.
there's no opportunity to be a kid because you're just in these
Yeah.
adult situations with these
Yeah.
crazy people.
I'll buy you a beer. It's just like I
Yeah.
get it. Like, okay, like my son, he's 12. I don't drink anymore, but like if he was 20 and he came home from college, it's the summertime. Hey man, you want to have a little, a PBR in the backyard? He's close. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I think
Yeah.
that's a little bit more acceptable. He's in school, he's doing well. Yeah, he might be drinking. Yeah, but we're not gonna go crazy. You're not leaving. But Tim is like 15, bro. He's not even close to drinking age.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's fucking weird.
It is weird, man. It
That's
is
it's
weird, but
weird.
the adults in this show, like in general, like a lot of adults are just not ready to be parents. That's why you have so many kids that parent their parents, and that's why I was listening to a podcast recently, like millennials and now Gen Z, like it's record family estrangements. Like parents are just like losing contact with their kids because their kids are like, yeah, you got some toxic shit that you got to figure out. Like,
You think
yeah.
you think it's a lot of like immature parents too? And I don't want to be a person who's like
Mm.
who knocks adults who have hobbies and shit like that. But do you really think there's too many people like gaming, like adults with gaming and TikToking and collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards and shit like that, and just not really wanting to fully mature?
I don't know. There's definitely some arrested development for sure. I think it's more like a lack of mental health support, like a lack of
Okay,
therapy, a lack of a real like understanding of how therapy works and how it could be beneficial. I think there's
right.
a lot of Especially for parents. I think a lot of parents are resistant to their kids going to therapy because they don't want the therapist to just tell them how bad of parents they are. But I think also parents are resistant to go to therapy to unpack shit that they feel guilty about, or maybe like know that they maybe didn't make the right decision on and stuff like that. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's a challenge. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
No, I feel I'm going through that right now with my mom. You
mm,
know what I mean? Like
yeah,
my sisters and I, we kind of got together and we just talked about our relationship with our mom. It could be up and down. You know what I mean? My
for
mom is
sure.
cool, but you know how black moms can be, man. Like they can throw stuff in your face. They can hit, you know what I mean? They can be
Hmm.
really, really vindictive and say some really cutting stuff,
For
you know,
sure.
and but they don't want to be called on it. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yep.
And they love teaching her lessons, but they don't want to really hear what you have to say.
Yep. Yeah.
And but I was telling my mom, I was like, look, I want to work on this with you too. I go, but I really feel like you should go to therapy and work out your stuff because like I have, and like me walking you through that, it's just like I feel like you're taking it as if I don't want to have to rehash it with you. It's just like I feel like you should go take care of your stuff first, and then you and I can work on
Come
something
back. We can
together.
come back and actually start rebuilding together. Yep.
Right.
Told my mom the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, and
And
it
just
feels weird because I want to like work on it, but it's just like, yo, you obviously got some shit going on, and I think that's really hard for them to hear. And this, you know,
mm,
it's like once you kind of settle your stuff, then I think now we can work on ours. It's
100%.
like the airplane. It's like an airplane. It's like, yo, put your mask on first, then help me.
Hmm.
You need to put your mask on first.
I hear that.
Yeah.
And folks, we want to hear from you. Leave us a voicemail at 347-454-1501. Once again, it's 347-454-1501. The number's in the show notes. Let Chris and I know what you think of the show, which characters you really fuck with this season. Just anything, just general thoughts, stuff like that. But like, let's get to our recommendations before we get to our final score, Chris. So our on the bench recommendation, folks, if this is your first time listening, that's for an actor or a character that we feel like just did some egregious shit or just wasn't bringing the high quality standard that we're used to for Friday Night Lights. So, Chris, did you have an on the bench rec for this episode?
Daddy Riggins,
Okay. Okay.
Papa Riggins. Yeah.
Papa
Good
Riggins.
good actor. It was just like the way he did Tim was shitty. He came through in the end, but like he hustled him. He hustled his own son, man.
Yep. Okay.
He hurt his boy.
Yeah. For me, it's Tyra. It's Tyra because she's trying to corrupt, innocent Julie Taylor and stuff like that. She knows what she's doing. And she gets stung with it a little bit in the next episode. So
Mhm.
she knows what she's up to. And then what about MVP character? This is for a character that just went above and beyond for the people around them and just, did a lot of good. I think I know what yours is going to be, but
No, you don't.
okay.
Shoot, maybe you do. Dude. It's a tough. I put Tammy
Oh, okay.
just because of the one scene.
Yeah.
Because like the whole thing of her like talking Coach down from being so hard on Smash.
Mm, yeah.
But I also could have picked Coach because he's dealing with a lot. He's helping. Also, I feel like Jason was great this episode. You know what I mean? So I mean, a lot happened. So I thought Smash did a great job. He had his moment. So
okay.
it's hard. It's hard. Who'd
Yeah.
you pick?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going with Coach Taylor. Coach Taylor, Kyle Chandler is also getting game ball for performance in this episode.
Same.
There's just so many things that he brings to this character, and the show kind of like rests on his shoulders. He's Coach Taylor, so it all centers around football. And at the end of the day, and he's the leader. He's the main guy, and so this show just does not work without the nuances and the layers that he brings on an emotional level as an actor. And so Coach Taylor for MVP character and game ball for performance for Kyle Chandler. He's just fantastic in this episode.
He is. It's crazy how like even in the show, that's exactly who his character is bringing everybody together. And then on set, like for real, he's bringing people up. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like it's kind of meta in a way.
Yep.
He's the anchor for all this shit. Dude, he is, man. He's so good.
He's really
so
good.
Yeah.
All right. And then our final score. And folks, if this is your first time listening to Friday Night Lights Rewind, we have a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being a drunk Riggins puking on the field and 10 being a Coach Taylor Hall of Fame speech. What's your score, Chris, for Upping the Ante?
I'll give it 8 out of 10.
Okay. Just an 8? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm giving it a 9. This is like a great, this had such a good layer of drama, comedy, and just amazing acting and performances. I just and just the way it looks and the way it edits. Like there's not a wasted scene in this episode, and so I really like this one. It's not classic, but this is still really good. This just shows how great the show is in regards to quality and storytelling.
Yeah. It's so good, man. They're so good at picking the right storylines to mesh together. Sometimes it can be a little chaotic, but I think that's on purpose. 100%. But when they, but it's so good. They pull you in so many directions. You feel for everybody.
100%. All right, Chris, let the people know how they can follow you, man.
Follow me on everything social media at Chris Allen Comedy. Follow me. Watch my special. Got to be honest, it's on my YouTube page right now, and yeah, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing at Chris Allen Comedy.
Awesome. And y'all can follow me at Frodo_Blackens. I got a bunch of Drunk Black History shows coming up. And also check out my Medium Popcorn podcast where we review movies and talk shit, available on all podcast applications and YouTube. And then, again, leave us a voicemail for Friday Night Lights Rewind at 347-454-1501, or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast application. It all helps the show to get visibility and all that good stuff. But yeah. All right, y'all. We'll talk to y'all next Friday.
Clear eyes.
Full hearts.
Can't lose.
Can't lose. There we go. We did it.
You got it. I get so nervous for that, man.
We did it, though.